Fastline Auctions, the ultimate destination for online farm equipment auctions. Looking to list equipment? Fastline Auctions knows farmers, and farmers have trusted Fastline for their equipment needs for over 45 years. With unmatched digital reach and direct-to-farmer catalogs, they can find the right buyer for your equipment. Not to mention, they have the industry's lowest commission rates. If you're looking for equipment to buy, you can bid with confidence. No buyer premiums, no reserves, just integrity. Fastline Auctions, your trusted platform for hassle-free, cost-effective farm equipment auctions. Visit fastline.com for more information. That's fastline.com.
Stories behind the ag brands we love and the ag brands we love to hate. What color is your tractor? With Chrissy Wozniak.
Hi, I'm Chrissy Wozniak, and welcome to What Color is Your Tractor? Today, we have a special guest who has a remarkable track record of founding and building successful technology startups. With a deep background in distributed storage and database systems, he has co-founded companies such as Isilon Systems and Clustrix, both which have achieved significant market success. Before starting his current venture, he played a crucial role in expanding Uber's infrastructure engineering and focused on deep learning and computer vision. As the 2024 Foster School of Business UW Entrepreneur of the Year and the 2023 UW Alumni Impact Award recipient, he brings a wealth of experience to the table. And he now works in the high-tech agriculture space and has founded a revolutionary company, one of my favorites to watch at a demo for sure, called Carbon Robotics. From Seattle, Washington, I'd like to welcome the founder and CEO of Carbon Robotics, Paul Mikesell. Welcome, Paul. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello, Chrissy. Thank you for having me. And I always love talking about laser weeding.
Yes, yes. I remember the first time I saw one of your machines in a demo at the FIRA show a couple of years ago, and back when it was in Fresno. And I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. It felt like watching Dr. Evil,
Sure.
putting lasers on,
Yeah.
we're gonna get the weeds on
Yeah.
sharks' heads or something. Right? It was just so
Yeah.
cool. Such a novel
Yeah.
idea.
I mean, thank you. I appreciate that. It is still, even for me today, it's really fun to go watch. And the machine, it's out there finding these weeds in real time with this AI system and targeting them with a laser. And so just watching that process happen, even if you don't have a laser weeder, but if you know somebody who's got one, who's running one, and you get an opportunity to go see it, it's still, even for me today, it's still thrilling to see. And you can definitely see what's happening. There's a lot of, like you probably experienced, there's a lot of visual, there's a lot of smoke. You can watch the weeds explode from the high power lasers killing them. And you really think about, wow, where could this technology and technologies like this help take us in agriculture? And I'm really looking forward to the future and all the great things that companies like us and many others are going to be able to do to help farmers.
Oh, yeah. So let's start out by giving me your background and how you came to this role at Carbon.
Yeah. I mean, like you mentioned in the intro, have spent all of my career focused on deep technology. That generally means writing, algorithms and code that is inside the machine doing interesting things. I'm talking about stuff like operating systems, file systems, databases, distributed systems, at running machines at scale for some of the biggest internet and tech companies on the planet. And I have to tell you that working with robotics in farms and working with farmers is way cooler than all of that stuff. Just being out there in the world, seeing machines on the farms. So the way that I got into this was by talking with a bunch of farmers. I think probably the first one was Shay Myers over at Owyhee Farms in Idaho, and spent a bunch of time working through with just him and some of the folks on his farm, some of the things they were running into. And then I just started talking to a bunch of different growers about what they were doing. And it became really clear to me two things. Farmers had a lot of interesting problems that we could solve with technology. And the second thing is none of this Silicon Valley tech or money was focused on agriculture. And that seemed like a real opportunity. It seemed like a shame, and it seemed like a real opportunity. So that's kind of how the whole thing started. And then weed control with lasers was kind of an outgrowth of this process of experimentation, trying things, figuring out what the big important goals were going to be. And that's kind of how we got here. But my whole experience in this really started with talking to farmers and working with them on the farm. I think every good agriculture technology probably started there.
Yeah, yeah, every successful one anyway.
Yeah,
If you're listening to a farmer and seeing their struggles and their challenges every day,
yeah.
that's a great place to start. So what inspired the name Carbon Robotics?
Oh, yeah. It really was just us trying to come up with a name for the company, and we threw 50 different ideas at a whiteboard and kind of worked through it and thought about it, and eventually we just came to the idea of Carbon Robotics. It doesn't have any particular special meaning other than we think it sounds kind of cool. It sounds kind of tough. Doesn't mean anything specifically. And but carbon, right? The earth, the soil, plants, a little bit of that. And really we just think it sounds cool.
Yep, and you have a really cool logo too. I like the
Thank
logo.
you. Yeah, thank you
Yep.
very much.
So when you're watching this machine work, and one of the most remarkable things is that it's lasering out all these weeds,
Yeah.
but it's skipping over the plants that are supposed to be there.
Uh-huh.
And I'm sure that's, a lot of training, a lot of deep learning.
Sure.
So can you explain how it uses AI, and really how the technology works?
Yeah. Okay. So what happens is you mentioned training, so that means a little bit about deep learning then and these computer vision systems. The basics are you take a bunch of images, and in those images you have labels, and those labels are a picture on top of the image that says this is where the weed is and this is where the crops are. And if you feed enough of those examples into a computer, you can teach it to learn those things. And it's not just learning those specific images. It's learning kind of a higher concept about what a weed is and what a crop is. And in the process of learning that higher level idea, it is then able to take brand new images that are coming at it live in real time from the field and make a decision about what's a weed and what's a crop. And so that is all deep learning. It's an AI system. And once you get it trained to the point where it's able to do the job, now you can put it in the field like what we do. And as the weeds and crops grow and continue to progress, you keep taking new pictures and feeding those new pictures into the machine, it continues to learn. And so over the time we've been doing this for several years now, we've been through many full cycles of crops from planting to harvest, multiple weed flushes, in each of those cycles. And so we've learned really well about what a crop and a weed looks like at all these different stages, all these different soil conditions, and wind and all that, everything. And so that process has really been through multiple years of doing it in the fields, getting through season after season and fine tuning and getting those AIs to the point where they're excellent and they do the right thing every time. And then the rest of it is just all of the machine around it, the optics, the cameras, the lasers, making sure that our systems are farm tough, farm ready, and plug into the whole machine in a way where it works perfectly every time and is finally calibrated to what it's supposed to be doing. So that whole thing is, and it's been interesting to see how many different crops we can do with this technique. We do over 120 different crops now. And that's because these optical systems are able to learn so fast with current computer vision techniques, current AI techniques, that we can turn around new models all the time now. So we're getting really good at this.
That is amazing. So from the initial idea of, okay, farmers have this need, EPA gets harder and harder to bring in new chemicals.
Yeah,
Totally see the need in our industry for that. So from that initial idea to the first working machine
yeah,
had to have been a roller coaster.
it
So can
was.
you kind of go like, tell us how that went?
Yeah, we did the first weed we ever shot with a laser. We had that working within about 6 months, and it was a laser on a push cart. Some of the folks in Idaho may remember this because we were physically pushing this machine around in the fields out there. One laser, right? So not intended to do a lot of weeding, but really testing the technology. It was a push. You'd push it around, you know. And then it had cameras and it had a camera, a computer, and a laser on it. And that was enough to develop and test that the technology would work. And then we built 3 generations of self-driving machines that were completely autonomous. And then in 2022, we came out with the official for sale laser weeder, which is a pull behind tractor implement, 20-foot wide, 3 row, 20-foot wide, 3 row 80-inch beds or 6 row 40-inch beds. And that machine has been what we've been selling now since middle of 2022, and continuing to sell more laser weeders every year, every quarter. But really, man, it was the development was us, living in trailers out on the farm, being there every day, sitting in, really hot, dusty environments with these computers, trying to get things to work. Cooling is a huge portion of the task because you got to keep the computers cool, the lasers cool, all of the rest of the silicon, so all the PCBs and stuff need to remain cool enough, clean enough, get good airflow. And we did that in the fields, that's how we figured it all out. And it was a little bit of a challenge keeping an engineering culture that had traditionally been in these, office culture, and sort of
Yeah,
getting folks used to the idea, yeah, we're going to be out in the field. But with the
that's
right kind of
awesome.
engineers and the right kind of attitude, you can make it happen. So we were able to do that.
Yeah, I'll tell you something embarrassing. A couple of years ago, after the first time I saw it, I was like, "That's such a good idea." And I'm a gardener here at home in Southwest Florida, and it was in during dry season, and I was like, "Well, if you can use a laser, I'm sure you could use a torch." So I got
Uh-huh.
myself a little torch, like a
Uh-huh.
fondue torch, and I
Sure.
started burning the weeds out of my garden, and I started my
Sure.
grass on fire.
Oh, all right. Well,
Really stupid. Got the fire out, but
this is
did you
how
ever
good
have?
ideas happen, just
That's
experimentation.
right.
Just got to be a little careful.
Yeah. So did you guys ever have something crazy like that happen in all of this, did ever because I was thinking, how does it not start everything on fire? Because there's a little
Well,
explosion every time.
yeah, I mean, the fire thing is usually in the fields, the only thing that's available to catch on fire is any of the stuff that's near the headlands, so the edges of the field. Because
Mhm.
in the field, it's been tilled and then planted, and then everything that's growing is either a plant, a crop, or something that we're going to kill with our laser weeder. And we get in there, pretty early, and we keep it relatively clean. So that though you do need to be careful near the headlands, near the edges where there's a bunch of dry brush and stuff like that sometimes. Um, and that's a constant something to be vigilant about as one of the operators of laser weeder. And we train the drivers and things like that, make sure. So I mean, fire is certainly something we are concerned about and help people be careful about. But that wasn't really the kind of scary event. I think the maybe the scariest one for us was working with the self-driving machines early on, and the center pivots and these giant center pivot circles. We had a one of our self-driving robots driving up and down, and the center pivot we were developing, so we were all sitting in this trailer, typing away on the laptops, not paying that much attention to what was happening in the field. And we didn't notice, but the center pivot was coming around and almost drove over our robot.
My
And at
goodness.
the time, I mean, that was like $300,000 in equipment we had sitting on that machine, which at the time was like almost all the money we had.
Oh,
And
wow.
so we didn't, yeah, so that would have been pretty scary. And so we learned, okay, you have to be really careful about where the center pivot is if you're going to run these autonomous trials, even with us there. And so then what we did was we decided we needed some kind of early warning system when the center pivot was going to move. And we didn't have, the pivot didn't have an electronic uh, monitoring system. It had an electronic control system, but we didn't have a way to remotely monitor it. So what wound up happening was one of our guys went to the local Walmart and he got a sonar based, like it intended to be installed on a driveway to detect when somebody was coming up your driveway, and it would ring this doorbell chime like a ding dong, like ding dong. So if you run your hand in front of it, it would go ding dong, ding dong. This big sonar sensor. So, but it was battery powered. So we threw that thing out in the field on the center pivot track, and then we installed the doorbell side of that in our trailer. And so we would all be typing along on our laptops, coding and looking at the output from the robot. And then if you hear this doorbell go off, ding dong, everybody would jump up and run out there because it meant the center pivot was on the move. So that was, that was one of the early field things that happened to us.
Oh, that's awesome. So, what were some of those key challenges that you faced in those early days, and what did you do to overcome them?
Yeah, I think so. The biggest challenges were around it didn't turn out the computer vision stuff was hard, the targeting control systems was hard, but our biggest problems were always around things like cooling, the stuff that you wouldn't expect. So it was like air conditioning, chillers. And I think part of the problem was our expectations about farm equipment toughness tended to match or was heavily driven by the farmer's expectations. But what we discovered was the expectations of our vendors, particularly the air conditioning vendors, were not there. And so in a lot of cases, they would sell us things that they said was totally certified, ready to go, work in all these temperatures, vibration, etc. And the thing would just be not even close. And the I think the biggest offenders in that regard were usually the AC and the chiller people. And so over time, I mean, we just spent an ungodly amount of time and hours and energy on testing and rewiring and retrying and upsizing the breakers and stuff on the rest of the equipment around the machine. That wasn't even really the important part. It wasn't the computer vision, it was the
Right.
AC. But that was the real learning, was in the farm environment, everything can fail, not just the stuff that you're most sensitive to. And so we spent a lot of hours fighting through those kind of challenges.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and w- every company has a story of the people involved.
Yeah.
So, who are some of the notable people that have come alongside you, whether they are producers or people that worked in the company?
Yeah, I mean, our engineering team is excellent. Our support team is top notch. Um, we try to make sure that our customers get excellent support all of the time, and that is really a testament to all the great folks in field support for Carbon Robotics. Can't say enough good things about those folks. So thank you to all of our field team who was out there every day trying to make sure that our customers are constantly happy and feel good about the machines. know they're going to get support if anything goes wrong, and that Carbon Robotics has their back. And I think our field team is I'm amazed by how much they do for us and our customers every day. And then a lot of the early growers who took a chance on us and bought Carbon Robotics laser weeders, particularly in those first couple seasons, were really important to us. And those relationships are the ones that will last, me a lifetime, right? I mean, some of these folks are people who they've been in farming their whole life through multiple generations and have come to know us through the years with the laser weeder. And, we've gone to dinners with them and met their families and, learned about where they were from and what other things they were looking for from both on the farm and not on the farm. And for, that's becoming part of these farming communities has been incredibly rewarding for me, just learning new things and also interpersonally just meeting new folks and stuff like that. So our field team and the farmers, I think, are just incredible. So when I think about all of the cool stuff that we've experienced at the company, those are probably two of my favorites.
I love that. And yeah, so let's kind of shift over to kind of the business part
Mm-hmm.
of it. Your competitors are obviously chemicals,
Mm-hmm.
and labor,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, there's also automated mechanical weeders as
Uh-huh.
well. So why why would a producer choose lasers, not just because they're so cool, but
Uh-huh.
why choose those over those other alternatives?
Yeah, I mean, versus chemicals, herbicide spray will really knock your crops back and you will get a lower yield. Your crops will take longer to come to fruition. Um, I think everybody kind of knows this, but they may not realize in the end all the accumulated damage to their stand and to the health of their crops by spraying all the time. Um, and then there's all of the side effects of these chemicals, the runoff into the groundwater, the issues with the long-term sustained health effects of being exposed to these things over a lifetime of farming. All that stuff is concerning. But from the point of view of just using chemicals on your crops, the stand count and the degree to which it damages your yield is pretty severe. And so we do a much better job than that. We don't knock your crops back at all. We can kill the weeds right up next to your crops, not damage them. Um, and then on the labor side, I mean, really, it is getting harder and harder to find good farm labor every year. And when you do find folks, the last thing you want to do is put them to work out in the field when there's so many other tasks to be doing. The last thing you want to do is have them out pulling weeds, right, in the field, and there's so many other tasks to be doing. And so laser weeder provides a great way to handle the weed control while you can have your farm workers do other stuff. Then there's, of course, the increases in minimum wage, overtime laws, etc., which is this constant, headwind for farmers, where the laser weeder doesn't have any of that. So we wind up being, I think, cost positive for these growers across chemical and labor, and we give them the comfort and confidence to know that laser weeder is going to work every time, and they don't have to worry about, did this chemical get sprayed with the wrong mix or at the wrong time or too much humidity or whatever. That the laser is kind of impervious to all those problems and will burn out the weeds. So that, those are definitely the two things that we see ourselves, I guess you could say, competing against, is the chemical and the labor. There are certainly mechanical solutions out there as well. They work okay in the sort of lower density crops, where you can run a cultivator blade between. And people will use something like laser weeder, Carbon Robotics laser weeder in conjunction with cultivators, even smart cultivators or other things like that. Because again, we can kill the weeds right up against the crop, and none of those mechanical systems can do that. So I think farmers really see us as a tool in the toolbox, more than just, am I going to do this or this? They do a combination of just about everything, and we're definitely in that mix, I think, for all across the country and all across the world now.
Yeah, that makes sense. And one thing too, you've had to train the AI a lot once, but for employees, you have to train every single one of them every single
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
right?
that's
And
right.
especially if you've got H2A workers, that's a lot of training every year.
It's a lot
So
of
that's
training, a lot
that's
of
a
paperwork
huge
too.
expense.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
a lot of
guess.
paperwork, a lot of housing, a lot of, right, just all kinds of stuff.
Hmm. So I would assume that your biggest customers would be the big farms, right? And I would think probably broccoli, lettuce.
Mhm.
What other
Broccoli,
crops are
lettuce,
you seeing?
yeah, carrots, onions, yeah, lettuces, spinach, celery, spring mixes. Um, in Europe, it's a bunch of other things as well. We do We do flowers and tulips and stuff in
Oh,
Europe. Yeah, we do all kinds of things. Um, but I think our most common crops right now, I would say, are onions, carrots, and leafy greens.
mm. Yeah, that makes sense. And what about business model? Are you seeing the bigger farms buying a machine for the farm and then custom operators buying the other? What's that ratio?
It is almost entirely people buying laser weeder for use on their farms.
Oh,
Occasionally,
wow.
folks will lease them out for use in their off season. But almost all of the sales are for somebody who owns a farm and is the primary use is on their farm. That may be every single one of our sales, in fact. Although I
Really?
think all of the custom operators are only in some off-season work
Hmm.
from somebody's existing laser weeder. I don't know of anybody who bought one just to do it as a custom operator.
Wow. It seems like that would be smart business venture, moving north to south during the season.
Yeah, potentially. I think usually it's just
Hmm.
that the farm has the capital asset need, and then they buy it, and then they participate in that opportunity
Right.
directly.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So what about the future of carbon robotics? Where do
Mhm.
you see this going? And are there new
We
technologies in the horizon?
Yeah, we love laser weeder. We continue to build, support, advance laser weeder. We will have some new products coming out that are completely independent from laser weeder. There will be some new stuff this year if our schedules, hold, and continued development in the world of AI robotics. So that's what we're doing. And we'll have some new announcements. I hope in the next quarter or so about some brand new products.
Awesome. You'll have to let us know when you do that. That's
Yeah, we'll
cool.
see. Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Mhm.
It's development right now. So
Yeah. And so the topic of this show is what color is your tractor? And it's really not just tells the story of the company, but also discuss brand loyalty. So do you believe that brand loyalty still exists in the ag industry? You didn't grow up in agriculture, so you didn't wear the green hat or the blue
mhm.
sweater or whatever. So
Sure.
when you look in, what do you see? And what do you see for the future?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that most farmers stick to one brand most of the time. And that part of that is this long history and comfort with the vendor. Um, and just knowing how it's going to operate. Every tractor interface is a little bit different, and so once you get used to one of them, do you really want to switch? Why you got to have a good reason to want to switch, even just for how to service it, how does it run, what are the different buttons on the screen mean, that kind of thing. So I do think there's a lot of brand loyalty, but it's also not. It's not that. It's only so sticky. If you screw up too much as a tractor vendor or any vendor, they're going to move on. And I worry sometimes that some of these big vendors that we all think about they tend to take a little bit too much for granted how much farmers have invested in that relationship. And I've seen some of the big vendors do some not very nice business practices with their farm customers. And I see farmers getting upset about that and moving on to other vendors. Sometimes it is the manufacturer, sometimes it's the local service center, sometimes it's something about a defect in the way it was designed. But I think the big brands need to be really careful and remind themselves how much that customer loyalty means to them and how fickle it can be when they take it for granted.
Yeah, great points. And did color, what role did color play when you guys were choosing the white and then is it red or
Yeah.
rust? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's I think it's brick
Mhm.
red or rust or something
Yeah.
like that. But yeah, we wanted something that would be easily identifiable, but not directly related to any particular brand. And
Mhm.
so that's how we got there. It's kind of like an in-between color. And when you see the Carbon Robotics laser weeders now, once you've seen a couple of them, you instantly recognize that color. And it was the same thing as the name. We kind of thought it looked cool at the time. And we thought it looked cool and was unique enough that we could invest some marketing energy behind it. I think that's what we've done. But we didn't want to imply any loyalty to any particular brand of tractor, for example. So that's why we did that.
Yeah, I could see that, when you're thinking about matching, a lot of implement manufacturers think of this. When you're matching, you don't want to match against the opposite color
Right,
of the farm. So I could see that was
right.
probably part of it, was that
Yeah,
we're not exactly the same color as any of the tractor brands. So I thought that
yes.
was pretty smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is
And
something you
so
have to think about, It's like wearing a
yeah.
jersey or something, right? You're not gonna wear the wrong jersey to the baseball game. So that's kind of that's kind of how we thought about it.
Yes, yes. And I think that's a really good way to think about it. And so how does your marketing team, what are some strategies that they use to get into the hearts of these producers?
You said you saw us at FIRA early on. We found that going to these shows and demonstrating the robots and making them available for farmers to come, touch, look at, observe, was critically important early on. And we did a lot of demos. We had machines set aside for demos that we could demonstrate in farmer fields. And we did that for name brand recognition. We did that so that people could see how it works. We did that so that we could prove to the farmers that we believed in the product, and we'll take it to you and show you it. We did, I think, some clever things early on where we have these little wooden tokens with the little X on it, and the laser weeder has been taught to shoot the X, and then you can hand these tokens out to farmers or other people coming to see the show, and you can throw those tokens underneath the robot. It will burn a hole in the token, and we can do that
Awesome.
we do it in the field as well. And the nice thing about that is, if you are the person who took that wood token and threw it on the ground, you know that we didn't, pre-plan or know ahead of time where that was going to be. So it's real, that the robot is actually live targeting that thing and able to shoot it and stay on track and make a hole in it. And so that we did that, and then we kind of turned them into keychains eventually, and we drilled little holes in them, and now we have these little tokens that we use all the time. You may have gotten one of those when you went to the egg show.
I haven't yet, but I'm sure you'll be at Fiera this year, so we're
Yeah,
gonna go
and
find you.
so that was that kind of stuff. I mean, marketing is important, but you want to do it in a way where it's flashy and people can remember it, and not completely vapid or devoid of meaning, right? So a laser shot token, it's something you can hang on to, but it also proves the point, right? And so
Yeah.
I think that was and I don't remember his idea. It was a good idea though. And so that that kind of stuff. And look, I feel like if your machine works, you should go show it. I think too many people bring mock-ups to these shows, or show examples, but they don't actually show it working at the show. And so I like the idea of bringing a machine, showing it working, so that everybody can understand it and see it.
Yep. I think it's brilliant. And so what advice would you give to other ag tech companies that are looking to get in, and they have a good idea, they're getting their capital together, they want to build a strong brand. What advice would you have to them?
Well, in ag tech, you've got to be out in the field and understanding these field conditions and these field environments. The companies that I think do not do that well in ag tech are the ones who spend too much time at their desks, designing in CAD and coding in a clean room, and not really understanding what's going to happen in the field. So I would encourage people to get out into the field and understand what the real world environment is like. That's true for agriculture, but not just agriculture. Every robotics company across all kinds of spaces. I'm talking about UAVs, warehousing robotics, food delivery robotics, right? All of those things. As far as I can tell, the winners from the losers is separated by who spends time in the field and actually understands the real environment. So I think being real about what that means from the beginning, and how much time you're going to need to spend doing that, and getting ready for it. And then I think the other thing is, when you're trying to raise venture capital, you need to be able to tell the story to somebody who maybe doesn't know anything about agriculture. And so you need to be able to approach a diversity of backgrounds, people who maybe know a lot about agriculture, maybe know nothing about it, and explaining to them from the beginning the problem, the opportunity, and how your machine can solve it. And that's a skill that you've got to get good at. And if you cannot approach or get to the point you're comfortable approaching, for example, Silicon Valley VCs, it's going to really handicap your ability to get things done. And so learning how to do that, I think, is important. And I think part of the reason why there was never that much money invested in ag tech until recently, maybe until we came along, was because these ag tech founders really needed to learn how to get out there and do, you got to accept the fact that still a lot of the money is coming from Silicon Valley. So you need to be able to go pitch those people. Now, hopefully that's kind of known at this point and people are more comfortable with it and they're happy bridging that gap. But that's a real skill and you have to treat it like a skill. It's not a side endeavor. It's not a thing that you are trying to get out of the way. It's an important aspect of the business to make it go. So getting really good at pitching to VCs, I think, is the second thing. And then the third thing I would say is, I think people always say this, but I also see them screw it up. The people that you hire and the quality of those people from day one is critically important. I'm talking about everybody from the engineering to the sales rep. They need to be the kind of people who are bought in, who do what they say they're going to do, live up to the company's goals and expectations, and never leave a customer hanging. And that's all across the organization. So those three things, I think, keep in mind, right? Be in the field, learn how to pitch VCs, and really focus on the quality of your people.
Excellent advice. Yeah, that's really good. So where can our listeners go to learn more about Carbon Robotics and stay updated too on your latest developments?
Carbonrobotics.com is our website. We also have a YouTube, Instagram. I'm sure we have a TikTok, all of those things. And then we're pretty active on LinkedIn as well. And then also, please come see us at any of the ag shows. We try to be at most or all of those. And then if you know anybody who has a laser weeder and you have interest, I would encourage you to see if you can go check it out in the field. Seeing it in the field is the best way to understand it. And then, if you want to get a hold of us, we're always available. Carbonrobotics.com, and check out some of the videos on the internet. Check us out on YouTube. We try to keep a good chunk of videos up there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. That was some great information, and I always love learning new things and talking about colors of tractors.
You bet. Well, thank you for the time today. I enjoyed the discussion, and if you ever want to talk to us about Carbon Robotics, we're always available.
Awesome. And thanks to all who are listening. If you want to learn more, the links are provided in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe to What Color Is Your Tractor on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or iHeartRadio, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can sign up at NorthAmericanAg.com or WhatColorIsYourTractor.com to have the latest episode delivered directly to your inbox.